My name is Michelle, and this is my story. I was raised Catholic. We went to church every week. We were extremely involved in the church. I was in the choir from the time I was in third grade all the way up through graduating high school. Once I made my confirmation, I was a cantor, and so I was up on the altar every week, just there every weekend and very involved in it. But that's all it was church on the weekend. It really didn't impact my life during the week. And I always figured I was Catholic, I had been baptized, I had made my communion and my confirmation, I lived a decent life, and that would be what would get me into heaven. I really had no concept of salvation or my need for it. And I always tell people I have a past. I was saved later in life. I was in my mid-20s when I was saved, and I have a past. I've made plenty of poor decisions, bad choices, was in a lot of bad relationships, hung out with all the wrong people, just a very colorful past. But as I look back on it now, I can really see God's hand in my life, whether it was Him keeping me safe or Him actively pursuing me. In fact, I can remember this one time years ago. I was in my early 20s. Some random person came up to me in the streets of Oakland and asked me that if I were to die that night, would I go to heaven? And I, of course, said, well, yes. I haven't lived that bad of a life. I've not killed anybody. I'm a pretty decent person. And they proceeded to try and show me from the scripture what true salvation was. And I really wasn't interested in it at the time. I kind of blew them off, but it always stuck with me. Even to this day, 20 years later, I can still remember this happening. And then in 2001, I started reading the Left Behind books. And I know those are works of fiction. They're completely fictional. But the authors really portray this close relationship between the characters and God. And I found myself really, really wanting something like that. And the more I read, the more I realized that there was something missing in my life, and that it was that relationship with God. And so I started reading more, and I started reading the scriptures, and I started to really pursue God, and talking with my friends who were Christians and who really knew God, and finally realizing that it wasn't about what I did or didn't do, that it was all about the cross. And over the years since then, I've really had to rely on God to give me strength and peace, especially when it has come to dealing with my health. I faced both an autoimmune disorder and breast cancer, and still deal with them to this day. And I've come to rely on God more and more, and to really learn to seek Him. And while yes, I seek Him through His Word, and I study the Bible, and I read the Bible regularly, it's more than that, and it's in different ways. And I always say I seek God in both stillness and in music, and it depends on the season in my life. Shortly before I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I became absolutely obsessed with the song Amen by the band I Am They. I listened to it so much that I eventually had all of the words memorized. And once I was diagnosed with breast cancer, it became the song that I just went back to over and over again. I would sing it constantly. Anytime I was by myself, I was singing the song. And the words really became my prayer. And through that song, I really learned how to pray, just like Jesus did in Gethsemane. Lord, not my will, but thine. And just as I prayed, that would be filled with such peace about what was going on. And now at this point in my life, I'm really seeking God in stillness. I've started my days just sitting quietly and just talking with God, and it's that stillness, and it's in that stillness that I just feel so close to Him. And right now, the verse that I've been clinging to a lot is Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. And the one thing I've learned in the 20-ish years since I was saved is that the more I seek God, the easier time I have finding Him, whether it's in music or in stillness or in His Word. My name is Michelle, and this is my Jesus story.